Today's episode is brought to you by Big Daddy Fitness Gym with over 1,000 transformations. If you have the will, Big Daddy has the way. Slimwave Technologies NuBody Medica, Innovator in the beauty business, bringing effective solutions for health and wellness.
Welcome, everyone, to the very first Selenitas United podcast, a podcast where women empower women through their stories of resilience and perseverance. I'm absolutely honored. I cannot even explain to you the goosebumps that exist throughout my entire body right now, that I have the one and only, my friend, Maro Lytra, who was my very first special guest on our podcast. Welcome, Maro.
Thank you. That's a great introduction you gave me. I appreciate it. Thank you very, very much.
Well, you deserve it, and you deserve
thank
it
you.
much more.
Thank you.
So, Maro, today, you know what? I want the audience to see the real you. So obviously, you know what? Just be transparent as you always are. And I'm gonna ask you, series of questions, but we'll take it as it goes because I really like the reason I selected you to be my very first guest on the show is because I know that you have a lot of stories of perseverance, incidents, situations of perseverance that you've gone through and you've persevered, right? Obstacles, challenges, etc. Great things that have happened to you. Just to set some context for the audience that do not know who Maro Lytra is. So Maro Lytra, and I'm gonna obviously pass the platform over to her, is she is born and raised in Montreal, homegrown talent, was singing, she graced us with her voice in a lot of the clubs and entertainment venues that we have here in Montreal, and she was always a star, right? I mean, it was a matter of time. And then fast forward a couple of years, and I know actually I want to give kudos to you because I know that you studied at the McGill University Conservatory of Music, Maramo. And before we go, and yeah, for the people that don't know, Maro Lytra's voice is the voice of an angel. I've always said that. And she catapulted into stardom, literally, when she entered one of the reality shows back in the day. It was in 2004, so it's hard to believe that it's 20 years now. It was called Fame Story, and this Fame Story is the equivalent, just to give people the perspective, of X Factor or America's Got Talent. It was huge at the time. And when Maro went there, and she's going to explain her experiences, and after that, she was a huge sensation. I can equate her to the Taylor Swift of today. That's how her started, right? I mean that's I can describe.
Well, okay, I guess she's yeah. Well, no comparison there, but I can see where you're going. I can see where you're going. Yes.
But at the time, right? At the time. So, Maro, first and foremost, before we go there, we're Greek women. We come from the Greek culture.
Yes, we do.
How supportive were your parents in, when you tell them, I want to pursue music, I want to become a singer. So how supportive were your parents?
I'm gonna start answering that question by introducing who my parents were and how I grew up.
Please. And your father. I want you to speak about your father.
My father. God, I miss him. So we grew up in a family where there was always music playing. There was constantly the Peri on the radio. We had those 8-track tapes. We had Dionysiu. We had Marinella. There was constantly Greek music in the house. We were only allowed to speak Greek. So growing up, I was listening always to Greek music. My father used to be a psalti when he was younger. My mother has a phenomenal voice. She sings like Kaleftika, this crazy stuff. I
didn't know that.
So yeah, my uncle also was a guitar player, 2 of my uncles. So it's kind of musical, my family. So yeah, we always had song and dance in the house. But coming the generation that came from Greece back in the day was quite strict, right? So being a singer was taboo. Telling them that I want to be a singer was actually a nightmare. I, I remember
But
my
good for you. Good for
my
you, Maro.
well,
Yeah.
you know, my first gig was with a band called Paradise. I was a backup singer for them, and I remember my brother-in-law coming to see me. And he goes to me, "If you go back on that stage, I'm going to tell your father." So that was it for that band. But then fast forward to Lido.
Yes.
Because the owner of Lido was very good friends with my father, he was taking very good care of me. However, when my mother found out, she came in there with a rock in her pocket so she could throw it on my head and
Was
kill
it like
me.
a slipper, a badofla, like we say in Greek, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's skotoso, you embarrassed us, blah, blah, blah. I was singing, I think it was Otan Pigename Masi Scholio. Anyway, she heard my voice, and at that point, she stopped herself from throwing the rock in my face. So thanks, Mom. Because she thought of herself when she was younger and she wanted to be a singer, and they didn't let her because, like I said, the industry was taboo.
Yes.
Lo and behold, when I got into the industry, I realized how dark it was and how right they were. But basically, I forgot your question. What was your question?
No. Listen, there's no specific. Listen, let's take it as a goal naturally, and I want to hear about you, right? So, for example,
yeah.
you told me the other day your name is Maria. So I
Yes,
didn't
Maria.
know that, right?
Yeah.
And then you said, my father used to call me Maro.
Yes.
And, listen, it touched my heart. I've lost my father as well. You've lost your father. So talk to us a little bit about that, right? Your upbringing, and you talked about that initially they weren't necessarily supportive, but then your mother saw herself in you,
Yeah.
and then gave you those those
Correct.
wings to fly type of thing, right?
And
But
and at the point that I did go to Greece, I had already lost my father. So
okay,
I'm hoping that he looks from above and is proud of what I've done.
he
I'm
is
sure he's not proud of a lot of things I've done, but I'm sure he's proud of me. I'm hoping anyway. So how did I grow up? I grew up in a typical Greek family. You know it. I know it's strict.
Yep.
My daddy used to call me Maro, and I hated it. I hated it. I think my name is Maria, and he goes, and he'd always introduce me as Maro to his friends because he was a cook and he used to work in all these Greek restaurants in
Yep.
Park X. So he would take me. I was often sick when I was little, so I'd miss a lot of school. So he'd always take me with him. We didn't have babysitters at the time, so that's how Maro started. And I remember fast forwarding to high school, my friend, I'd say my name in high school. I would call myself Mary. And so when my friends would call the house, when I started having, a social life, they'd call the house. My dad would pick up the phone, of course, and he'd call out my name. He'd say Maro. And I'd come to the phone and said, everybody would be like, "Who's Maro?" I said,
Yes.
that's me. Like, and I was angry, I said, "Don't call me Maro." And
Yeah.
they started calling me Maro too. And Maro just ended up being what everybody was calling me afterward. My sister would call me Maro.
Yeah.
So my friends started to call me Maro. And then when I started singing and I was saying my name Maro to an English population, I go, wow, that's a really cool name. So
It's very original.
I guess later on I appreciated it when I was younger, but I appreciated it. I thank my father for calling me Maro.
100%. And you're
Yeah.
gonna see, the reason why I'm asking about your family is because there's a reason for that, right? And when the audience hears, your journey and then how you've come back to Canada, in terms of this safe haven that you have with your family, I also want to would like to hear more about your sister, because I know that you have a very strong bond with your sister. And I saw it firsthand when we had an event and you were performing, and there was a situation, I don't remember, there was like a lot of people were talking. It was like there was like 600 people and it was very loud in the back, and some people were at the bar section, and she came up to me right away and she says, "You have to do something. My sister's singing. You have to do something. They have to respect her more, right? Or respect the situation." So that touched me. I don't have a sister. And for her to come up and defend you and stand up like that, moi, faisait dire, like, it really left an amazing impression on me. And I said, this is a wonderful bond. So talk to
Yeah.
us a little bit more about that, Maro.
My sister and I, we have a year apart, a year and something.
Yeah.
So we're close. She's my older sister. So yeah, she's protective of me. That night, I think she felt my energy.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people, they don't know what I've done. They only know the fame story because they saw that on TV. They don't
Well, we're
know.
gonna find out about it today.
They don't know all the things and all my songs. I don't know, for some reason, at the time, it wasn't as we didn't have Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff. So it was like, I felt as though they didn't really know who I was. So when I got up and I sang, and I guess it's just a cultural thing, we're a little bit
Yes.
indifferent to things like that. So we'll talk over. I don't think it's really a disrespectful thing from the people, although it felt that way. I don't think they did it intentionally to disrespect me or any other candidate.
No, it wasn't
But
intentionally.
it was
just the environment, right? But
it was a little rude.
What
Yeah.
struck me, Maromo, is how defensive she was and protective she was
Yeah.
of you. And that for me is golden.
Yeah.
Okay?
She's very protective. Like I'm grateful to have a sister. I fight a lot with my sister.
That's okay.
There's months I could go for months, and she can go for months and not talk to me. We used to fight like cats and dogs when we were little. But I know that when the going gets tough, if I need a helping hand, it's hers that's going to reach out first. You know, and that bond. Like, I want to kill her sometimes, right? And I'm sure she wants to kill me too.
But that's love. That's love,
but,
right?
You know,
that's love because it's passion.
Yeah.
Yes.
But when it counts, Kathy is right there, you know, and that's
Shout out to Kathy.
Shout out to Kathy.
Thank you for loving Maro so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Maro, listen. So right now, tell the audience, because the podcast is on 6 different platforms. It's international, so people are going to be listening to you. So obviously, you're extremely well known in Greece. Talk to us about that. So you participated. So you had a wonderful journey here. You launched your singing career here in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And then talk to us about what happened. There was an important event in 2004. There was something called Fame Story. So talk to us about that.
Okay. Do you want to know how I got in there? You're saying
it's up to you.
So prior to my Fame Story was Fame Story 1.
Yes.
And my dad and mom used to watch it. I never watched it. I had gotten into the English scene at that point. I was in a rock band and trying to launch a career in that. The band was called Achilles Closet, and we had original songs.
Yes.
So why I'm mentioning the first Fame Story is because this is going to go back to my daddy again. Yes. My daddy used to love Petrelli.
And I love that we're talking about your dad. I love this, because we are who we are based on our upbringing as well, right? And our parents have such a big influence on that.
They do. Again, growing up in a Greek family, in a very strict family like I had, it was bittersweet, right? Because but anyway, back to Fame Story. So he would watch Fame Story. My mom would watch Fame Story. My daddy got sick. He had lung cancer, and
my dad had lung cancer too.
Yeah, that was very traumatic.
Yes.
To lose a parent is not easy. So in 2003, I lost him, October 14, and because for those 3 years I was taking care of him, I had stopped singing here also.
Okay.
I wasn't. I just quit. I didn't want to sing anymore. So in 2004, they were doing auditions for Fame Story, and I remember I was with Brokoulias and Alexa Drobatsoulis, and we were all like a gang. Maria Tsioda at the time too. She's in Greece as well. My mom sent my name in, and I'm like, no, Mom, I'm too old. I don't want to do this.
How old were you at the time, Maro?
I was 33. Okay. So we all ended up, we talked with the guys, and we said, well, let's grab a train and just go to New York and audition. So that's what we did. Me and Brack and Alexa, we were in the train with Maria and Andrea. Let me also remember Andrea. He was there too. So we went on this train. We went to New York, renting one room for all of us. We did this audition. I had no expectations, zero. There was in my head. There
That's
was
the best, right? When you have
there's
no
no way.
expectations and then you have such a tremendous, positive response.
So they gave us like a number. We're waiting our turn, and I remember there was like a big. We were all waiting upstairs. Like we were downstairs, and I remember Wunari was there, and everybody. And upstairs was a glass window where the people would wait who passed and would be upstairs. And I got up to sing, and I said my name. They said, "What are you going to sing?" I said, "I'm going to sing Treno from Visi." So I started to sing Treno from Visi, and I had my eyes closed, and I opened my eyes, and I saw the window. Everybody was like stuck on that window watching me.
Wow, I'm getting goosebumps, Maro. I didn't know about.
Yeah. I was like, I looked at them and I was like, okay, I think I sang Evanescence song too, from what I remember.
Can you give us like a 10-second or 15-second?
Now?
Yes, now.
Oh God. But which ones?
Whichever one you prefer.
Oh my, no pressure. Let's continue talking. Maybe
yes, let's
after,
continue
okay.
talking. But I'm gonna ask you to sing after.
Sure,
because
sure,
you know why? You're that good, Maro. You're that good.
Thank you.
Thank
you. I didn't feel that way. This confidence came, I think, maybe a couple of years ago, which is crazy. Anyway, so
that's interesting that you say just a couple of years ago,
yeah.
because I was watching your videos the other day, and the performances that you were putting on in Greece, I'm like, wow. This is like Taylor Swift, this is Adele, this is a combination of all these beautiful Mariah Carey, like you were like, you know what, and you're probably saying, Stella, I don't know, I'm a bit well, no, but this is how you were seen in Greece, and really because you're that talented and you need to know that, right?
Thank you.
So Lipon, fast forward. So you did the
so I was singing Treno, and I saw the people, and I was like, okay. And I remember my friend George. I had met George Skandalis at the time, and he's like, "You're gonna go in, you're gonna get in, you're gonna get in." I'm like, "Nah." So we ended up leaving. We came back to Montreal. The boys did fantastic, all three of them, Andrea, Alex, and Brack. And I remember actually Calamita was there too, auditioning, and she was just so cute. So I said, there's no way I'm getting in. A couple of days later, I get a phone call, and it was Wunari. And he's like, so we selected you. Are you ready to come? And I'm like, what do I need to do? And he's like, okay, you need to do some blood tests. I don't know why, whatever. Blood test sent us this. So I get off the phone, and I tell Akilas at the time, I said, they picked me.
So how did you feel when you got that call?
Petrified, because I had no idea what this game was. I had no clue where I was going. I never watched it. I would see my mother and father bitch about why they voted whatever. I didn't even know. I don't know what they were watching.
Fame story. Yeah. Again, the equivalent to X Factor or
plus Big Brother.
Yeah, exactly.
So I immediately called Braculius, and I'm like, Brock. He goes, what? I go, what is this thing I'm getting? What is this game? He's like, oh, well, it's a game where you live in a house and you have to sing every Sunday, and then they eliminate you. And I had zero clue where I was going. I had no idea. Like literally, my mom said my name. I auditioned like blindly, never expected to get in, got in, and had no idea where I was going. And if I could turn back time, if there's one thing I would change, it would be to educate myself where I was going and how I should be when I go there, because that was a very, very, it was a double-edged sword, that game. So that's what happened. That's how I ended up getting into Fame's story and ending up in Greece. So
and Maro, I'd like to add something to that, right? So you're saying if I could change something. So to the audience and the listeners that are listening to this podcast, it's very important to understand that this podcast is also about having actionable items. So whatever Maro's communicating in terms of what she's learning, it's very important as women for us to feel empowered and say, you know what, I need to make an important decision in my life but it needs to really be informed, right, Maro? This is what you're saying,
Absolutely, absolutely, which I was not.
Informed, take a step back, ask more questions, be more curious, right? So I think these are all, very important aspects in when it comes time for us as women or anyone in general to take an
I think
important decision.
you're right. And most importantly, I think mentally, you have to be really you really need to understand your mental state before you make a decision like that. My mental state was not at its best. I had just lost my father. I had that trauma. I was not regulated. This I found out years later with therapy. I didn't know what I was going through at the time. I just felt it was depression and loss of my father and whatever. But I went into this game with this sadness.
With the sadness, that's
with a
interesting.
sadness.
Yeah.
With a sadness. And already with the trauma and going in there was very traumatic because I wanted to be a singer. I didn't, that was the beginning of the Big Brother era and cameras watching. So we were in this home and they were watching us 24 hours a day. And to get ratings and to do what they wanted to do, they'd either like shut the AC or turn on the heating when it was hot outside and, start intrigues, I don't know how you say it in English. This person said this or that person likes you, or just to start like that thing so they can have stories to tell, right? Otherwise, it's not.
It could be viral, right? So it could be something that could be viral in that environment.
And we were basically pretty innocent at the time because that's, again, when all the Big Brother shit, excuse my language, started to happen. After that, when you see the games, you see them.
We don't want to excuse your language. We want to hear. We want to be vulnerable.
These Big Brother and they're prepared. They go in there and they know that if they act a certain way or if they do something, that's how they're going to get the ratings. That's how they're going to get the votes. They were smarter. I wish I was at that point, and I wasn't. So I went in there very innocently and with a lot of trauma. So being in that home, not knowing what was happening outside, not knowing what they were showing outside, was very, very difficult. Dealing with your own struggles and having to deal with all that mental mind game that they were playing there to get the ratings, that was very, very difficult. Going every Sunday and trying to perform while you're being judged. I don't do well under pressure. Honestly, I look back at the tapes now and I hear myself singing. And I'm like, oh my God, because I knew that.
Your talent was there. I mean, your talent is. But
if you're I know. But if you're like compressed,
yes,
I don't know that, and you're going to be judged harshly.
There's tightness, there's fear, right?
There's fear, there's insecurity. What if I get out of the game? I gotta pack my stuff, come back. That's over. It's over.
Yeah.
I made it pretty far. I was voted out a couple of times. Yeah, I was voted out a couple of times. Wow, where do you want to begin with this fame story? Fame monster.
So let me help guide you.
It was a fame monster, not a story.
Let me help you. Let me help guide you. So you said something interesting, right? So obviously they wanted to get the ratings and you were not cognizant, you weren't aware of what was being shared on the outside world. Now, people were seeing this and they were obviously, filming you inside the home and they were, taking some nuggets, filming nuggets and then sharing that because that would resonate and would be viral with the audience. That would, they wanted to attract viewers. But yeah, you didn't know exactly, what are they filming? When are they filming? I mean, the cameras were there, but you probably didn't know exactly what was going to be displayed. And coupled on top of that, you had the pressure of performing in the competition, Marol.
Yes.
You made it to the semifinals. You're talking about every Sunday you had to come on and, the stress was there. How did you handle that? Because for me, I know when my dad passed away, it took me a good 6 months. And then that's when I even started having panic attacks, anxiety. 6 months in, here you're talking, your dad just died. You went in with a sadness. So you had this trauma. And the mental state, I would say, wasn't 100% like what it would be for you today, right? Based on everything that you know. How did you deal with that pressure?
At the time, I didn't know what I was going through. At the time, we didn't really diagnose, you know, PTSD or complex PTSD,
Yes.
which I was diagnosed with.
And it was a taboo, right? We couldn't talk about PTSD.
We couldn't talk about it. It was you know, you go to the doctor, he'll just give you medication for depression, and that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
However, I was never depressed. I just had complex PTSD, and had I known that, I would have never taken all those drugs that they were giving me for my depression, which I did not have. How did I deal with it? Like I said, I didn't know at the time what I was going through, but it was very, very difficult for me. I was very uncomfortable. I was very emotional. I was very triggered. But I was going from the motion, thinking that it was normal, right? Because
you kept going.
You just kept going.
You know, Maro, is it safe to say that you didn't know better, right? You didn't know any different at that point.
I didn't know different. No, I did not different.
Okay.
No.
So you know what? So fast forward, the competition ends. You went to the semifinal. Then after that, you had, you know, I believe there's a contract you had to sign prior to you going to the game.
So here's another thing. The contract we signed it 2 seconds before we got on the bus, before they brought us to the home. And it was about this thick. We weren't allowed to read it. We just signed our life away. I did anyway. So
yeah.
In the game also, looking back, as you're in the game, you're not realizing the game, because it really was a game, a mind game, a mind fuck. You know what I mean? It was a game on our minds. It was unfortunate. If they chose after the game to keep you in the company, then that contract bound you. And so the Heaven Music, basically I was already signed to Heaven Music, and had I not gone that or if the people didn't love me as much or didn't vote me as much, then they probably would have like sent me back home, but they kept me in Heaven Music. So yeah, that was the contract, and that was another big you know it's I don't want to sound like a, because you know, oh, you're so lucky you went, your dream.
But
people
this is
get that
reality.
attitude, you know, but the reality of it was not that pretty, and a lot of people just no, just, you know, you're just being but I'm not. And for many years I didn't talk about it, and I didn't
I'm so sorry to hear that, Maro. I'm so sorry to hear that you didn't share. Like, look, and you know what? I think everything in life happens for a reason, right? And I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. And I have to tell you, I'm blessed to have you on this podcast, because a lot of women suffer in silence. You suffered in silence.
Yes, because we are in the generation where, you know, our mothers never said anything, right? So we shouldn't say anything.
No.
I think I left that industry right at the tip of the beginning of the Me Too movement, where the women were able to speak. We're able to expose
the Me Too movement at the time when you came back to Canada. But let's go back. Let's go back to the period between. I'd like to dive deeper between the period between when you left Fame Story and right before you decided to come back to Canada, which was in 2011. Okay. So describe to us your career, because it was huge. You are in magazines in Greece, radio shows, TV shows. You know, you released 2 albums. Like you mentioned, you signed the contract with Heaven Music. You know, you had some singles that went gold.
Yes.
Gold. This is Maro, this is huge, right? So
I know, you know, here
the audience, please explain to the audience.
Okay, I'm going to explain something that I've never said out loud before, and especially in an interview. I lived those times and those experiences, but I didn't. And only a person that has been
So what do you mean by
trauma has been through, because when you have complex PTSD, when things happen to you, you're constantly in this fight or flight mode or freeze mode, and you're going through the motions, and it's as if now it's as if I was watching a movie of someone else. I didn't live those moments. I wasn't present in those moments.
Wow.
Sadly, and it breaks my heart, but I wish I had been, but I wasn't, because this is something I've never said before, but when I did come out of Fame Story, everybody knows I had this relationship, and it was what they don't know, it was a very abusive relationship.
This is with one of the participants
Correct.
on Fame Story. And we don't have to name the name, but
they all know the name. But he
yes,
was extremely, extremely abusive.
I'm so sorry to hear that, Maro.
Thank you. And having to go up on a stage with thousands of people, basically, or the people in the club, screaming out your name and singing Iparhiali or whatever I had at the time. And then having the owner of the club come running on your break and telling you cover up your bruises because people on the front table can see them.
Sorry, Maro, you said bruises? So this
bruises. It was yes. It was it was physical, emotional.
Okay, so you know what? I have to say something because I'm just a passionate person. Shame on this individual. Shame on him. I'm so disgusted and appalled.
It was at a time when, you know what, his response to me was, this is Greece. Nobody's going to help you here. This is Greece. This is okay here. So I was, like I said, before the Me Too movement, where I was never supported.
God is watching.
The company was hush hush. The people that would see it, nobody spoke. Nobody helped. Nobody helped me. I was there by myself. I was embarrassed. I couldn't tell anybody what I was going through. There was a lot of things happening. So I didn't enjoy all the beautiful things that I did. And now, because I think I'm healed, or I'm in the verge of trying to heal myself, it makes me sad that I didn't, I wasn't there. I wasn't present. I didn't feel those wonderful moments. And unfortunately, what happens with complex PTSD is that your brain protects you. So you forget a lot of things. With the memory that goes of the bad things,
yes,
memory of good things also goes. So it's somewhat of a blur, basically, in my head, unfortunately. And I have to remind myself, I will put on YouTube and I will put on my concerts and try to put myself in the body that was there, because the body was there, but the mind was scattered. And this is it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. So like I said before, if you're going to go into something like this, go in with a great mental state so that you can appreciate and live every single second of it and remember it. I didn't have that luxury, because
the support, right? The support increased, right?
No.
So first of all, thank you so much for sharing that, Maro. I mean, I can't tell you what that means to the podcast, the audience to this podcast. There's so many women that suffer in silence, be it in mental abuse, right? Mental,
emotional.
They're emotional and physical. And they don't come forward. And someone like you, and again, I want to let the audience know, Maro was huge. She had reached stardom beyond, like, I mean, I remember seeing you saying something that, you were achieving more success and recognition and wanting people to see you than the existing singers that were there for a longer period of time. Because when you came out Fame Story, you were like the it person, So
yes.
I just, if we can, and I appreciate so much you saying, describing the mindset and that it was all a blur. But I also want to give you credit. This is very important, Maro, because when I look at the YouTube videos, I looked at some of the interviews, and I would never have known that you have gone through what you have gone through, right? and kudos to you. And somewhere inside of you, God was giving you that strength to show, like you said, that physical appearance, the performances, to be present for all the times you needed to be present, whether it was on the radio shows, the TV shows, the performances, the concerts you had to go through, the joint, and I know you did multiple joint collaborations with, tremendously Greek renowned singers as well. And to be and to not and to it for you to tell us now that you wish you could have been more present, that speaks volumes, right? And the audience is listening to this, and a lot of women want to hear your story, and they're going to be inspired by that. And so I would say, look, so Mara, let's take, if you could just elaborate and just tell us how successful you were during that period. Like really, because I mean, gold records, to be nominated for the best, debut artist. I mean, on the Mad
I traveled the
Music
world.
Awards. This was huge.
It was huge.
Huge.
I lived the dream
Yeah.
and the nightmare at the same time.
Yes.
It was incredible. It was an incredible experience. If the little memory that I have of coming out on the stage and having thousands of people in Australia and all over the world. I traveled the world, calling out your name, crying, ripping at your hair, and screaming, "I love her!" I couldn't,
They were saying, "I love you, I love you, Marol," right?
There was other people screaming, "I hate you," but
that's
that's part of it. That was part of the whole fame monster game. So it was. I wish I could give you more. I wish I could give you more. Maybe with a little more healing.
You know what, Marol, I'm not asking for more. I'm asking for exactly what you're giving us, right?
Well, I mean memories of what it felt like, because it felt look, it felt great, and it was a beautiful experience, and I'm not gonna. But when you, even a normal person in a normal situation with no trauma, with no depression or whatever, when so many people scream out your name and then you go home and you're alone, the silence is deafening. It's just as loud as the screams. So
talk to us about that silence, because I've heard you talk about that before, like going into your house, like you're so loved, you can't go out of your house, you're going to be recognized, like you're this phenom, right? This Greek phenom during that period, and fame story and post-fame story. And again, I want the people to know that you achieved this tremendous success, and then
thanks to the people. I want to point it out that there was the people in Greece. They adored me, they loved me, and they kept me there because the industry was very, very difficult. So,
but Maro, going back to that silence, so you go home, you close the door, and the silence is deafening. Talk to us about that.
Look, through therapy, this is going to go back to my dad and getting the approval from my dad, which I never got. And unfortunately, he passed away, and he never gave me that approval. He was difficult on me, which set the stage for my future and relationships that I had. So being so loved, and then going never feeling
loved and protected, loved and protected.
Yes. Never feeling that or feeling appreciated, or this you carry this with you, right? So I don't know if other artists, I've heard other artists say the same thing. So I guess it's a universal thing. But you go into your house and you're all by yourself.
Yes.
You don't have your family. You don't have any friends, because truly you don't know who's your friend in this industry, right?
Right.
Or maybe you do. You do have a couple of friends, but then you go home and it felt too empty. It felt too empty for me. This is my own personal experience.
Yes.
I'm not talking about what it's like for other people, and if it's greater for them, that's fantastic. But unfortunately for me, and I don't want to sound like misère here, but that was a fact.
No, but
that
this
was
is
a
the
fact,
reality, right?
That
I
was
mean,
the
it's not
reality.
all it's not all roses
So
and cherries here.
So I came from growing up in a situation like that into a relationship that was very abusive. So when you're in a relationship that's abusive,
so
mentally, physically, and emotionally,
so
you don't feel loved. You don't feel worthy. You don't feel pretty much anything. Yeah, you get that dopamine when you're up on the stage and screaming, but then you're home with yourself and you're left with not knowing who you are because you're lost. You're lost inside, back in that head somewhere, and it's everything shut down. So it's only your frontal lobe that's working, and it's I didn't know at the time. I didn't know what was happening to my body, to me. I didn't know. I just knew that I felt alone and I felt empty and I felt scared, and I was another person on the stage and I was another person off the stage. So on the stage, there's a mask that comes on, but it was a part of me that it was that light that yes, it's a God's gift. And it was that light that came through. And then it was the darkness. So it was a bittersweet situation, I have to say, in Greece.
Yeah.
It was.
I would say yes, it was a bittersweet situation, and again, I'm so sorry you had to go through that, but at the end of the day, look, you decided, you had this tremendous career, stardom, etc. I love the fact that we're going deep into your mind, because this is what I want the audience to hear, because this podcast is all about, how can we share stories in a raw and vulnerable space, not be afraid to be judged, yet knowing.
I lost you. Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Knowing that you're going to impact and influence people that are also going through similar situations.
Well, I want to say something to the women.
Yes, please.
A lot of times you see a woman who is, we're very judgmental towards women, and why is she staying, or why is she dealing with it? Why should she just get up and leave? Why? She's weak, or she's not, many strong, confident, independent women are mostly the ones that are getting abused. Not mostly, but a lot of times it is a woman like that. And it's not because she's not strong and she doesn't want to leave, or she enjoys it, or she's mazocha, like they called me in Greece. Nobody wants that. But you're so crushed, you don't have the strength to leave.
Yes.
And you have to be gentle with these women. You can't tell them, get up and leave, because that doesn't help. You have to be understanding that this woman or this man is suffering. They want to go. They really want to go, but they can't. They've been crushed. Their spirit has been crushed. And it's so painful that the only person that can heal the pain is the one that's causing the pain. You know what I mean? This is the sadness about it. So
I hear you.
A lot of times a woman will stay because person that.
But you know what that is, Maro? That's narcissism.
Well, we didn't know what narcissism was like a few years ago.
What
now
you
it's all
just
over
said
the
right
place.
now, you want to seek comfort in the individual that's causing the pain. That is part of a narcissistic hook that a lot of partners, be it men or women, have towards. So I just wanted to make that link. So again, a lot of trauma, but I also see a lot of. I've seen a lot of perseverance, and for you. In 2011, in September, it was nighttime, to make the decision, right? Like I said, again,
26th of September.
26th of September. Look at that, right? So
it took me 2 years to make that decision. It wasn't overnight. It literally took me 2 years. And it was because I had enough. I had enough with the sexual harassment. I had enough with the bullshit.
What do you mean sexual harassment?
There was, like I said, the Me Too movement started after. I had to be quiet. I had to be quiet and tolerate.
Within the industry.
Yes, and I had to be quiet and tolerate and just, pretend not to see, not to hear, not to.
Can I say something?
There was a lot of times I was cornered, and I chose to not. And that closed a lot of doors for me. So when I left, there were quite a few doors shut in my face. So it wasn't a decision that, you know, I'm a hero. It was, I had to make that decision. I had to go because, like I said, I was not participating in things. So there was a lot of
I
doors
can't
shut in
believe
my
this.
face. Yeah.
I
What kept me alive all those years, and I'm going to say it, is my fans and people.
yes.
But I had a hard time with a few people in the industry. They made it very difficult for me. Maybe that's another podcast. But it's, so you
Yes,
see, do
yes,
you
and we
see
can
all the
always
trauma?
have a we can always have a part two, right?
Do you see how the complex PTSD is coming in slowly, right? Because complex PTSD is one trauma after the other one. So voila, you lose your dad, you go into this place, you don't know what you're doing, they're manipulating you. Second trauma, you go, you get
You're
out,
like a
you're being
puppet.
abused. Third
You're like
trauma,
a puppet. You're like a puppet.
so one after the other. Maro, who's Maro? Maro just now is starting to do some baby steps to find herself again.
And I respect that so much. And Maro, you know what? You came back to Montreal, you came back to your family, you came back to your safe haven. I'm gonna ask you, you know, do you obviously at that point that was the right decision for you to make, correct? Reflecting now, we're in 2024. Would you have, you know, it took you 2 years, like you said, you reflected. Would you have, reflecting now, go back and say, maybe I should have
Slept with that person? No.
no, not that person, not that person. No, definitely. And
Oh.
that person is like an
Yeah.
ex in my book, and then everyone who's listening, like shame on you.
No, I'm talking. Who are you talking about?
No,
Now
I'm
I'm talking
saying,
about
would you have
big boys in the industry,
all the boys, yeah,
big heads in the industry.
yes,
Henry Weinstein's in the
yeah,
industry. Yeah,
the
no,
Greek
I would not.
Henry Weinsteins, right?
Yeah.
Shame on them, okay?
Well,
And as a strong woman, and you're a strong woman as well, like shame on you, and you're gonna get what's coming to you.
on me?
Wanted to put that message up, but my question,
Shame on me?
no, not shame on
Oh.
you. Should not shame on you, shame on them.
Well, listen,
Shame
I'm
on
hope.
them,
Well,
and shame on anyone in the music industry and anyone in general who would make any individual, whether it's a male or female, feel like they're cornered and they have to do a specific action or participate in something in order to, you know, get ahead.
yeah,
So we're talking about the, so I'm saying shame on them. Okay,
yeah.
they're gonna
Well,
get what's coming to them, like a Harvey Weinstein, right? But Maro, my question to you is now, would you ever want to go back to Greece?
there were times in throughout the years that I thought about going back to Greece. At this point, it's changed so much. I feel like I'm very grateful that it changed, and that the girls that are coming out now won't deal with that anymore, and can be whoever they want to be, and can wear whatever they want to wear and not be harassed for it. The industry's changed. There's a whole bunch of new artists that Instagram and all that social stuff started coming out, and they get famous through that. It's a whole different ball game. Would I want to go back to Greece in that industry again? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think that. I think I hung up my dancing shoes. I hung up my little microphone. It's done. It's done. It's a whole different thing now. The music's different now. They're younger.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I love what's coming out. I love that they write their own songs too.
But Maro, can you?
There's no space. There's too much of a distance. There's too much of a distance and too much time that has passed that.
But that's
that ship has sailed. The ship has sailed. Right?
The ship has sailed, and you've hanged up your, you know, your dancing shoes. Yeah. So would you say that that's a chapter of your life that, although it happened, you're also grateful that it happened because it helped you become the woman that you are today? And so when we talk about, I'm going to throw a term towards you. What comes to mind? Self-love. What does that mean to you?
Any day now, Stella. Any day now, I'll be able to let you know. What does self-love mean? Self-love for me right now is acknowledging what I've been through, dealing with what I've been through, trying to heal. And self-love is giving myself the not opportunity, but the permission to be frazzled, to be upset, to cry, to go through all the emotional roller coaster that PTSD causes you, and to notice that, you know, this is a trigger now. This is just reminding you of something. But self-love is that, to know that, to help yourself to know that you're at the point where it's just a trigger and you're not in danger anymore. So you don't need to be in fight or flight. You don't need to freeze. You don't need to be in anything. You need to ground your feet and know that you're here and you're safe and you're loved and you're good. And
Did
that
I
takes
help
a
you?
lot of work, because I had to do 4 years of therapy. Unfortunately, my therapist, I'd continue if she hadn't gone to, she didn't have a baby, but
Yes.
it's an everyday thing, because
You have to love yourself, Maro. If we don't love ourselves first and also protect ourselves and love ourselves, right? Then we're going to let other people come in and, you know, expose ourselves and be vulnerable, right?
I gotta tell you, Stella, I
Yes.
find like a lot of words flying around, like narcissist,
Yes.
self-loved, you know, and yeah, you gotta love yourself. Yes, it's the most difficult thing to do. It's the most difficult thing to do. I gotta tell
That's
you, it's
why
not
I
that
asked
easy.
you the question, right? That's why I asked you the question.
And it's
because-
not, I don't want to, there's a lot of women who are having a hard time with that, because they don't feel secure. They don't feel that they love themselves. And then you have another one's going to come out and preach, you know. I'm not here to preach. I'm not here to you know, it's a very difficult thing to love yourself, especially if you come from a family where, you know, it was work, home, and the parents didn't make you love yourself. You know what I mean? They didn't
Yes.
teach you that. And then you went out into the world and bad things happen to you. So you start loving yourself a little less and a little less. And it's a very, very, at this point in my life, it's not as easy as, I'm grateful that I have my religion.
Yes.
That keeps me, that gives me comfort. And there's a lot of love there. And, you know, God loves me. Jesus loves me. Panagitsa loves me. So you know what I mean? That
100%.
to me is a lifting force for me. And loving myself, I'm working on it every day.
And this is why I asked you the question, right? Because this term self-love is, like you said, thrown very loosely nowadays. But like you said, it's very hard to love yourself, right? And especially if you've gone through trauma in your life, it's not an overnight. And like you said, Stella, it's day by day. So Maro, for me, the last thing I would love to ask you, and I always want to hear a little bit of, you know, your voice as well, because we're running out of time in this beautiful first podcast of Stella United, is if you were to write if you had a sentence or two that you would want to share with the women in the world in terms of perseverance, resilience, tenacity, and that sentence would appear in Times Square on the billboard, and it would be going on and on and on, just the same, like, what sentence of inspiration or what key message of inspiration would that be?
Boundaries, 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 boundaries. And repeat in flashing lights. Know what your boundaries are. Honor your boundaries. Make everybody around you understand your boundaries and that they can't surpass them. Your values, your boundaries, that's very important. And if you feel threatened in any way, or your boundaries threatened in any way, seek help. There's help out there. Don't do this alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. There's a lot of people, and you'd be surprised what kind of people are going through the same thing. But what's important is you have to know, you have to sit down with yourself and say, write down your boundaries. This is what I will not tolerate. This is what I will not tolerate. This is what I absolutely will never tolerate, and you got to stick to that and make sure that your boundaries are not crossed, because once those boundaries are crossed, you're lost. You lost yourself, and that person pretty much has a dominion over you.
This is excellent advice. I never
Thank you.
expected to hear those words, boundaries, 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 but it makes so much sense, so much sense. And you know what? This applies to every woman in anything that they're doing, right? Whether they're an artist, whether they're a banker, whether they're a homemaker, it's important to have boundaries in our lives, right? Because also the boundaries protect ourselves.
Right.
Maro, I would say, so right now, very quickly, where are you in your life journey?
You know, I like I said, I was in therapy for quite a while, because coming back to Montreal, also a lot of things happened here which were unexpected, and what triggered me to, I just want to mention this. This is very important, because through the years in Greece and whatever, we didn't have, you know, all the information that we have now, and I couldn't talk, so I didn't know what was going on with me. I just kept popping antidepressants that the doctors were giving me. When I lost my dog,
Oh my God.
and this dog meant the world to me, because
I can't, Maro.
I lost, this is very important, Stella, and I need to say
please.
this, because this is what triggered my healing journey, and through such a horrible thing. The loneliness in Greece that I was mentioning before was horrific. It was Easter. I'm going to say this story. It was Easter, and I remember being on my third floor balcony in Glifada, looking down at people's yards and seeing them metarnia, you know, and their celebrations, and I was by myself. And Easter was a very, very big thing here when my father was alive. He would do, you know, these phenomenal parties, and everything. So you know, I realized at that point how alone I was, and I told my hairdresser at the time, you know, I think I'm gonna get a dog. So this is how Tsiga came into my life, and he brought a lot of joy into my life, and he was with me all the time, everywhere I went around the world. Every interview you'll see him. I mean, I have him in photo shoots. He was my little partner. He was protective of me. He was the love of my life, and he got me through a lot of stuff down there.
Oh my God,
so when I came back here in 2015, he got killed right outside.
Jeez. It affects me because I'm a dog owner as well.
I didn't get to say bye to him. I remember picking him up off the ground, and then 2 hours later, while I was screaming, they ripped him off my arms and they threw me with my clothes to wash off the blood. It was a horrific experience.
I'm so sorry, Maro.
And I was like, why'd you do this, God? You know, he's the only thing that loved me, and I loved back.
Yes.
Looking back now, I'm sorry that I said that, because God doesn't do stuff like that. But I'll tell you, after that, I started to not be able to sleep. I would relive this thing over and over again every night. And again, they put me on antidepressants. And that's when I realized that after I lost Tsiga and I got traumatized, those memories that I had suppressed throughout my life from other traumas started to come back up. And that's when I realized that I needed help, because I didn't understand what these memories were. And that's how I sought out help. Originally was to calm myself from, I didn't understand why I'm reliving this. And so she diagnosed me with complex PTSD. I got off the medication because it wasn't depression, it was just complex PTSD. And you know,
Maro, I'm feeling your pain. I'm seeing you cry, and it's like like inside of me.
I have
And
been through a lot, Stella, but the pain of losing that little guy, I cannot. It's crazy.
I can,
It's crazy.
they
And
say
yeah,
a dog's a man's best friend, a woman's best friend, and they truly are, and for those people that are not dog owners, may not necessarily understand, but for the audience that are listening, and there's a lot of people that own pets. I mean, it's the pets are part of you, right? They depend on you. You are the parent to these, beautiful beings.
creatures. Mhm.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
it's important to get the right diagnosis, though. There's a lot of help out
Yes.
there now, and there's a lot of information out there. Don't get confused. Go to a professional and get a proper diagnosis of what you're going through. It's very important because that's where the
Yes.
healing will begin. Otherwise, you're going blindly through scrolling through things, and everybody's a narcissist.
No.
Everybody's self-love. You really need to go to the
You need
core
to
of
go to a professional. You need to
go
go
to
to
the
a professional. You need
yeah
to go to a psychologist, psychiatrist, psychotherapist. These are
yeah
professionals.
yeah.
And I agree with you. And Maro, in the essence of time, I hope we don't, if we do get cut off, we'll reinitiate a quick video. But how was your experience on this podcast? How did you feel about sharing? Do you feel some
Um,
type of relief? Do you feel like, because there's going to be millions of people listening to this.
yeah. Well, the thing is, again, it's a bittersweet thing with me because there's a lot of people going to, unfortunately, and you've seen this in the Greek community too. They're like, "Ah, la Morena, okay, she had everything and she's complaining." There's that, and then there's the people who are going to be touched. There's always going to be the people, there's always, with me, there's always like both.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that I shared this, and I hope I can help somebody through this. And if they
Thank
want to
you.
reach out to me, no problem. But I know at the same time I'm going to be bashed. That's the story of my life, but I don't really care anymore.
Well, the ones that are going to bash you, like, they're going to have to go through me because I'm not going to let anyone bash you.
It
And
is what it is. It is what it is,
left and
Stella.
right, if
It's
they have negative comments, that's fine because
that's
they
fine.
have something that they're dealing with, right? And
Sure,
then they're
absolutely.
just reflecting and redirecting.
But I love what you're doing. I love what you're doing because you're building a community of women that women needs to support each other, and we don't support each other enough. We don't.
Right.
We compete against each other. We
Yes.
bash each other. We want to step on you to get over, to feel better about ourselves. We should not do that.
And especially in the Greek community.
And you are, thank you for doing what you're doing because you're bringing the women together and you're giving them a voice. And
Yes.
you're saying that we're a sisterhood. We're sisters.
Yes.
We got to love each other like
Yes.
sisters. We got to
Yes.
support each other. If we see something wrong, we got to help each other, not criticize or gossip. Exactly. Stick together.
Yes.
Women need to stick together. And I'm not to bash the men. I'm not that kind of woman. I'm not there.
No,
I don't believe in that.
women,
But I think women need to not have a voice because we do have a voice now, thanks to all these women who have opened their mouths and said what they said and shared their stories. But we need to have a sisterhood. And thank you, Stellinides United. And thank you, Stella, for starting this because this is very important. How in the Greek community is very, let's come together.
Thank you so much, Maro. And I want to end it off with, if you can sing like just a little bit of any song, you know what, whether it's Melissa Etheridge, I know she's your favorite singer,
She
right?
is, yes, she is.
A snippet, because I know we're probably going to run out of time, but just a little snippet, because your voice is, I always say, voice of an angel. I want to hear you.
You're killing me now because I'm so emotional. It's very hard for me.
I'm emotional too. And the first thing I'm going to do after this podcast is I'm actually going to go and hug my dog. And I'm going to hug my dog. And I know you have dogs.
Yes,
and there's therapy for us, right?
Yes, there's
therapy.
Dogs are therapy. There's therapists out there. There's help out there. There's women out there. Reach out. Don't suffer in silence. And got a song right now.
Anyone that comes to your mind.
In the arms of an angel, fly away from here. in this dark, cold hotel, and the endlessness that you feel. You are birds from the wreckage of your silent only. You're in the arms of your angel. May you find some comfort here.
My God, I'm bawling. I'm bawling. For those of you that cannot see us, I'm bawling.
Sorry for my voice, it's cracking.
Oh, that's amazing.
But
that
your
is very
angel,
meaningful for me because it reminds me of my dad. So
remember,
Maro,
you have an angel too, right? Don't never forget that God blessed us with an angel each.
yes,
So if you want to talk, you can talk to your angel. They're always there.
yes, Marol, I love you.
I love you too,
Thank you
Stella.
so much. I'm
Thank you.
honored that you are the first guest on the Stellanitas United podcast.
Good luck,
You're
baby.
paving the way. You're paving the way for all, future women to come onto the podcast and share their stories of perseverance. Sagapon, I love you very much.
Thank you.
God bless you.
God bless you.
And may God guide you each and every day. And
Thank
remember one thing, you are loved.
you.
And, I don't ever want you to feel the way you felt. You're not alone.
Thank you.
You know that.
Thank you.
I love you so much. Have yourself a wonderful day. So, ladies and gentlemen, this ends our podcast with Maro Lytras and with the Stellanitas United Women Empowerment. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt, Maro, you have undeniably impacted and influenced a plethora of women through your story, through your courage of sharing your story. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stella.
God bless. Have a wonderful day.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Today's episode is brought to you by Big Daddy Fitness Gym with over 1,000 transformations. If you have the will, Big Daddy has the way. Slimwave Technologies and NuBody Medica, Innovator in the beauty business, bringing effective solutions for health and wellness.